Hello, this is Mr. Gottwalls in the chemistry department, and this is a short information podcast on the Appalachian Trail Miniterm. A little general overview. The leadership for this trip is Dr. Pietropalo in the math department. He's the trip organizer and the trail boss. My responsibilities on this trip are to provide medical support for folks while we're on the hike. The itinerary is we hike in Southwest Virginia, right across the North Carolina border. We start in Troutdale, Virginia. We walk across the Grayson Highlands. We arrive at Mount Rogers, which is the highest point in the state of Virginia. And several days later, we arrive in Damascus, Virginia. The trip is roughly 6 days and 5 nights. We do about 45 miles, depending on whether or not we tack on some things at the end. Typically, mini-term will start on a Thursday. What we do on Thursday and Friday is we have some organizational meetings. We work on our backpacks. There's a short academic activity you need to do. We make a trip to REI to get equipment. And we do that on all that on Thursday and Friday. We get some rest for sure. We typically depart Saturday. We have breakfast at Elmo's very early in the morning. We drive to Troutdale and begin our hike. We're usually in Damascus by 11 or 11 a.m. or so on Thursday. We get a good lunch, and then we head back, and we're back in Durham Thursday night. On Friday, there's a show and tell or information presentation session, and sometimes we'll participate in that, sometimes we won't. For the academic portion of this trip, we ask you, usually in a group of two, to prepare a short report for presentation on the trail, so you can talk about survival on the trail, you can talk about medical things on the trail, you can talk about wildflowers or medicinal plants. You can talk about different animals that you might find on the trail, that type of thing. The cost for this trip is under $200, and that pays for all meals, transportation, and equipment rentals if you need them. And this trip does count as a travel. So even though we're not going out of country, it does count as a travel. Equipment and materials, science and math responsibilities are with the money you provide us as part of the fee. We pay for all the food, including all of the meals at Elmo's and the Blue Blazes restaurant in Damascus. We'll also pay for equipment rental. If you need a backpack and a sleeping bag, we can rent those from REI. Your responsibilities as a participant, you must have well broken in boots. Okay, we don't want you buying brand new boots and wearing them for the first time on the Appalachian Trail. You cannot wear sneakers. You cannot wear anything other than boots for this trip. You are responsible for getting your own appropriate winter clothing. Needless to say, this is a trip in February, March. We're up around 5,000, 6,000 feet, and it's a little cold. So you have to have appropriate winter clothing, which means no cotton, no blue jeans or denim. You must really want to get synthetics to stay warm. You also are responsible for your own accessories. I personally recommend hiking poles. That's up to you. But water bottles, personal items, flashlights, other things that you want to put in your backpack other than a sleeping bag, raincoats, those are things that you are responsible for obtaining on your own. The application procedure, there'll be a Google form posted presently. We also have a little evaluation activity to make sure we think you're going to be safe and ready to do this pretty strenuous outdoor experience. There's one hike. We typically do that late October, early November, and we go to Eno Park and we do approximately 9 miles with a pretty full backpack, just to make sure that you are going to be able to handle the rigors of hiking the Appalachian Trail. There's also one overnight camping trip, and we usually do this in mid-January. Again, we go to the local Eno River State Park, and we do a Friday night camp out. And what we're looking for there is to make sure that you're compatible with the group, make sure that you're able to take care of yourself, set up your own tent, get yourself fed, get yourself up in the morning, get yourself packed and ready to go. Typically what we'll do after the overnight camping trip is we will take a short hike with our backpacks after we wake up on Saturday morning. The other part of the application procedure is medical. It's really important that you let me know if you have any medical conditions. Keep in mind we're in a pretty remote area. There's not easy access in or out. So if you have medical conditions, I really do need to know about them. If you have diabetes, if you have asthma, if you're allergic to bee sting, if you've had any recent orthopedic operations or torn ACLs or anything medical that might cause problems on the trail. These are not disqualifying, but I do need to know about them so that we can get you evaluated properly before we're in the woods where the only way out is by a helicopter. Okay, a little bit of trip profiles here. I copied some of the elevation profiles so you can get a little bit of chance to see what we're doing here. These charts here, these profile maps, you see elevation on the y-axis, and you see the distance on the x-axis. And these are we're heading southbound, so you're going to read these things from right to left. So what you'll notice here is the distances are pretty short, so 5 miles thing, but we have some pretty good elevation climbs. Excuse me, we're pretty much climbing every day. Some days we climb. There's a pretty good climb from Old Orchard to Wise Shelter. That will be on Sunday. Going from Wise Shelter to Thomas Knob, it's almost all up. From Thomas Knob Shelter to Lost Mountain Shelter, there's a lot of downhill, but what you should notice here is it's about 12-13 miles. That's our long day. Lost Mountain to Saunders, we have a good, nice downhill, but then we're climbing the rest of the day. And then getting back from Saunders Shelter into the place or Damascus, we do still have a little bit of climbing to do. So this is not like hiking in Eno or one of the local trails. We're doing a lot of elevation climbing here. Let me show you a little bit of a map here of where we're going. It's a little hard to see here, but we're going to start right about here. This is Highway 16, just a little bit north of Troutdale. We're going to go past Hurricane Mountain Shelter. That's at mile marker 511.4. And our first stop is Old Orchard Shelter at marker 506.4. And that'll be our first night. That's about halfway up the mountain here, heading towards Mount Rogers. We come around, we come around to Wise Shelter at 500.5. Again, not very far, but keep in mind this is winter time, so it's a rocky trail, and typically this time of year we also have ice and snow on the trail, so it's a little slower going than it might be in the spring or summer. From Wise Shelter we climb, and this is, by the way, where we're going to probably see all the wild ponies, which is one of the really nice attractions of this trip. From Wise Shelter we go to Thomas Knob Shelter on top of Mount Rogers, and this is at 495.4 mile marker, and you can do a little short day hike up to the very top of Mount Rogers. Beautiful views here, by the way, from Thomas Knob. And this is the only one of the only two-story shelters on the entire Appalachian Trail, so it's a really fun place to stay. Then our next day is our long day, going to Lost Mountain. So from Mount Rogers at 495 to Lost Mountain Shelter at 483, that's about 12-13 miles. And a lot of that is downhill. You see we're coming down off the mountain here to get to Lost Mountain, but we still have some climbing to do on that trip. From Lost Mountain we head to Saunders Shelter, and you can see here we're winding around here. We have to do a fair amount of climbing on the back end of this trip right here. From Saunders Shelter, depending on the weather and how everybody is doing, we'll either stop right at Highway 58. There's a beautiful stream here that we can camp right next to, and and relax there. Or if we're feeling ambitious, sometimes we'll backtrack up to Sandy Flat Shelter, which is off the Appalachian Trail, but it's a really nice hike up along this ridge line here, and we've done that in some years. Speaking of 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 staying at Highway 58 next to the creek, everybody does need to have a tent, but most of the time you'll be staying in a shelter. But we do want you to have a tent just in case the shelters have other people in them, or something has happened to them, or for some reason, we need tents to put people in. So everybody will have a tent, or have a tent that they can share with. Okay, from Highway 58 or from Sandy Flat, we march into Damascus, Virginia at 467.4. And that's where we get caught up on some eating and pick up the bus and head back home. So that's the trip. If you have any questions, send email to Dr. Pietropalo at pietropalo@ncssm.edu, or to me at gottwalls@ncssm.edu. Look forward to seeing you on the trail. Thanks for watching.